HP just did something almost no brand dares to do. A gaming PC that's pure stealth mode, solid black. Something you could even put in your living room next to your massive TV and no one would even know it's a gaming powerhouse. But we are not just taking HP's word for it. We have reviewed more mid-range to high-end gaming PCs than anyone on YouTube this past year, and today we're putting this one to the ultimate test in the most brutally honest review of the new HP Omen 35L Stealth. I'm not entirely sure what to expect with these internals, but let's go ahead and check it out. They actually did a pretty good job keeping it all clean despite everything being hidden. That's a 5070 Ti. This thing is huge. We've got that same SK Hynix ugly green RAM that we saw on the Aurora R16 from Alienware. Two 16GB sticks in here for a total of 32, both at 5600 megahertz. Let's go ahead and check out this SSD. Looks like we've got a 1TB scan disk, also with no heatsink. Now let's go ahead and check out this behemoth of a GPU. I don't think I've ever seen a 5070 Ti this big before. It's a 3-fan 5070 Ti. Probably gonna have some pretty nice cooling. Okay, so the bracket is actually part of the GPU. That is a massive 5070 Ti. Oh, looks like this one came pre-scratched. Probably another careless reviewer. So to put things in perspective, this is how big it is next to a 4080 Super. That's impressive. And then behind that GPU, we've got one more SSD slot for more high-speed storage. We've also got one more PCIe slot for any expansion cards that you might want to add in the future. This, thankfully, is not blocked by the GPU. And then lastly, we've got an 850 watt power supply. Pretty balanced for the fans. We've got two 140 intakes and then 3 exhaust. And these top 2 fans are actually part of this PC's AIO liquid cooling system for the CPU. Using a liquid, this CPU cooling block takes the heat that's generated from the CPU and transfers it up through these tubes up into a 240mm radiator where the heat is spread out and then blown out the top with these 2 top fans. Let's go ahead and flip it over and see what's on the back. So looking at the back, it looks like we've got no more brackets for hard drives. That's a bummer. There's literally nothing you can do back here. So as far as the ports go, overall between the front and the back, we've got a decent amount of USBs with a total of 8 USB-As and 3 faster USB-Cs. But one thing this PC lacks that almost all pre-builts do have, connectors for the Wi-Fi antennas. Investigating further, I followed the wires from the Wi-Fi card and discovered that they travel up to these 2 nubs at the top that look like feet. So these 2 things right here are their antennas. For the fan noise, in silent mode, we had extremely quiet fans that were just under 41 decibels, which is about the noise floor for my studio. And then when putting it on turbo mode during gaming, it barely increased the volume at all. This is what they sounded like. You can see in the charts that even in turbo mode, it was one of the quietest out of all the gaming PCs that I've ever tested. Now for the thermals, you can see in our thermal imaging time-lapse from computer off to full-on gaming that as usual, we do get some heat building up on that side panel where we normally have a glass panel right next to the GPU. Taking off that panel and moving in closer, we can see a bit more in detail where some of those hotter areas are. The large majority of our thermal testing was spent in actual gameplay. These were our CPU temperatures for several different games at 1080p. These are a little bit hotter than I had hoped, and looking at the overall averages, you can see that the CyberPower PC Gamer Supreme with the exact same specs did do a little bit better of a job keeping cool. But moving into 4K gaming, we actually got very low temperatures. We're focusing on the GPU temperatures here because high resolution gaming puts a lot more pressure on the GPU and eases up on the CPU. And you can see in this overall chart that compared to the rest, it's actually one of the coolest here with the lowest 5070 GPU temperature that we've seen yet. Now getting into the performance and gaming benchmarks. And up next, the most important part of this review, the price to performance ratios. For Cinebench R23, which simulates its 3D rendering power, we got a multi-core score of about 23,000. And when comparing to the rest, you can see that this is about where we'd expect it to be compared to other PCs with 9800X 3D CPUs. We also got similar results in our other main 3D rendering benchmark as well. Our V-Ray performance score again shows this PC to be in the lower range when it comes to this kind of task. For actual gameplay though, these were our average and 1% low FPS numbers that we got for several games at their highest preset settings at 1080p, 1440p, and 4K gaming resolutions. And to sum this up, averaging all of those games together and comparing with the rest, you can see that overall it had just a tad bit less FPS than that CyberPower with the exact same specs. Same thing at 1440p, just barely below what we've seen that CPU and GPU combo do in other pre-builds. But then in 4K, we got nearly identical average FPS as that CyberPower PC Gamer Supreme. Alright, let's check out some CyberPower cyberpunk gameplay. And these are clean. Look how much cleaner the white version is. All right, so we're at 1920 by 1080 because this is the Omen 025 FHD gaming monitor. And we'll just keep all of these other ultra settings set. Apply. Man, that looks beautiful. That looks so good. So after playing for a bit, we've got 188 average FPS, the 1% low at 132. That's pretty good, especially with these maxed out graphic settings. Wow, even the ambient noise with these headphones sounds amazing. For reference, this is what it sounds like with my studio microphone, and this is what it sounds like using the actual microphone from the headset. Yes, this studio microphone sounds a lot better, but it's also $250. So in comparison, this sounds pretty good. Let's go to Ray Tracing Overdrive and see what we get. Wow, so even with Ray Tracing Overdrive, we're seeing an average of 110 FPS. Let's see what happens when we turn off DLSS though. All right, so that's a little bit more what I was expecting. 72 average FPS. No DLSS, this is just raw performance power right here. Let's go ahead and jump into some Fortnite. These are the graphic settings I normally use. Pretty much everything's set to epic. Got him. Oh, he wants to play. Whew. So we're sitting at 230 average FPS right now. The 1% low is at 145. We're still not even showing off the full potential of this monitor, so let's go ahead and bring these settings down to low. See how many FPS we get. Wow, that is smooth. If I lose this game at 400 FPS, then I'm doing something wrong. Whew. Wow, this looks insanely smooth. That is incredible. Oh yeah, there we go. So 453 average FPS and a 1% low of 238 and a victory royale. So I do kind of wish the HyperX mouse was a little bit heavier, but it is pretty comfortable to game on. Their mechanical keyboard though has some nice weight to it, and the key presses are pretty solid. And the Omen 025 gaming monitor is only FHD, but the picture quality is still pretty good. And that 360 Hz refresh rate makes high FPS gameplay look really smooth. Getting into what really matters though, the price. Right now at the time of this recording, this PC sits at $2250, which is about average compared to the current competition right now if you're gaming at 1080p, but you can see that it drops further and further down the charts with an increasingly worse dollar per FPS ratio as you go up in resolutions. This chart shows the closest performing gaming PCs that we've tested. At 1080p, we get about 12% better performance with this Omen 35L than the two PCs above it, but those are also $450 less expensive. And almost identical performance if you game at 1440p and 4K. This is mainly due to the incredible price to performance value of the 9070 XT GPU in those other two PCs. And this leads me to the recommendations for every budget section. Because of the insane deal right now, if you want to game at 1440p or 4K, I would be a bad reviewer if I did not recommend that AVGPC Whirlwind. It's currently $450 less expensive than the one that I reviewed today at only $1,800. If you need to be closer to $1,000, then I would go with the Skytech Shadow that I recently reviewed with a 9600X CPU and 9060 XT GPU. You can see in the charts that it's not a good 4K gaming PC, but it was pretty decent at 1440p and 1080p. And if that's still too much, then I'd get this AVGPC Max for $850. This will be a little bit better performance than an Xbox Series X or PS5. At less than $2,500, this ABS Eurus Ruby is one of the best deals that I've seen yet with that GPU. Literally just today, it temporarily went out of stock, but because of the time of year, I predict it to be back in stock pretty soon. And for the rich people with a budget closer to $4,000, ABS also has a version of this Eurus Ruby with a 5090 GPU now for $4,000. That's actually pretty crazy, and the lowest that I've ever seen besides this Gigabyte Aorus Supreme 5. But that one does have slower RAM than the ABS and a less powerful, less future-proof power supply. Overall, my least favorite things about this PC are its rendering performance, its slightly lower than average gaming performance at 1440p, and its price to performance ratio at higher resolutions. My favorite things about this PC are its quiet fans, its cool GPU temperatures, and its design, which will pretty much look good anywhere. If you want a gaming PC that doesn't scream gamer and looks more modern and professional, and you plan to game primarily at 1080p 1080p, then yes, this is a pretty good bet for you. But if you plan to game at 1440p or 4K, just know you're going to spend a few $100s more on this PC than those other 9070 XT pre-builts with the same performance. If you do decide to purchase this PC or any of the others that I mentioned, then please remember to use my affiliate links in the comments and description below, or tag directly on this video, or using a QR code if you're watching on a TV, as I get a small commission at no cost to you for every single purchase